Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Okradowski of We Are Change.org, currently here in the United States, where the U.S. president is trading human rights violations for cheap oil, and a very respected congresswoman just called Donald Trump Saudi Arabia's bitch. Yeah. That's happening in our geopolitical circus, and that's why in this video I specifically wanted to talk about Saudi Arabia, a topic that of course we've been investigating and covering for a number of years now, why oil prices are really as cheap as they are right now, and of course how oil is a big geopolitical weapon. Now this is a very complicated topic with a lot of things happening behind the scenes that usually, of course, the mainstream media doesn't cover. But hopefully, we will unravel in this video. And before we start, you should know that we are not corporate nor government shills of any kind. And if it wasn't for your support, or you purchasing one of our sweaters or t-shirts on teesprings.com/stores/wearechange, the link will be in the description, we wouldn't be here. And we only are because of you. So thank you so much for supporting our independent media organization through buying a sweater or t-shirt. And now, back to the very complicated topic at hand that hopefully we will simplify. Before we start, you should know that the price of oil is usually decided on supply, demand, and of course, geopolitics. And one of the factors that people need to realize to understanding why oil and gas is so cheap right now in the United States, it is because the United States is advancing to become the world's largest oil producer. Currently in Texas, there's a massive job shortage where virtually anyone could get a job that pays over $100,000 a year for just simply being competent and having a driver's license. And with more oil pipelines being built in Texas, with the expansion of fracking inside of the United States, and of course this is not only helping lower the price of oil, but at the same time changing the global geopolitical picture very dramatically. And currently the geopolitical picture doesn't look that pleasant for the United States and especially the world, with our current president Donald Trump just a few months ago saying that Saudi Arabia helped commit 9/11, to now not only giving them the largest arms deal in U.S. history, but at the same time being characterized by many statesmen and statewomens as just an outright Saudi Arabian bitch, which of course many Americans see as putting Saudi Arabia first, way ahead of the United States. And this is exemplified with Donald Trump's statements just moments ago, where he literally just started to attack Iran when, of course, addressing how Saudi Arabia just not so long ago extrajudicially executed an American resident and an employee of the Washington Post, and, just assassinated him, cut him up with saws inside of the Saudi embassy inside of Turkey, which, of course, is a huge violation of international law, and spurred up a lot of controversy, probably mainly because Khashoggi had many connections, and many people speculate was connected to an intelligence agency. And when Donald Trump was responding to even the CIA, which probably Khashoggi, probably not verified yet, worked for or had close associates with, when the CIA even came out and said that it was Saudi Arabia that executed and killed this journalist, Donald Trump just started to blame Iran. And then continued with more Orwellian, duplicitous lies in his official statement, later going on his Twitter account and thanking Saudi Arabia for lower oil prices. And thanking Saudi Arabia after the assassination of Khashoggi, which of course they lied about, they covered up, they blamed everyone else but themselves, and officially it all came out that it actually was them. Yeah, that is definitely not a good look for Donald Trump, the United States. And honestly, coming from this entire perspective here, you have to say at least Donald Trump was honest here, because if we look at the historical record and alliance that Saudi Arabia had with the United States, this is absolutely nothing new. And what Donald expressed was an honest explanation to what has been happening for decades between U.S. presidents and the empire of Saudi Arabia. And while, of course, other presidents were more coy about this brutal alliance, sinister cohesion of just the worst atrocities that you could commit in this world that this alliance is responsible for. Obama, Bush, Clinton, they were very silent on a lot of these things happening and still continued the same policies. But gotta say here, Donald Trump pretty much highlighted it to the world with his statements, which at least make it a little bit more transparent to the bullcrap that has been happening for a number of years now. And this bullcrap has been happening mainly because of Henry Kissinger and a deal brokered between Saudi Arabia and then current U.S. President Richard Nixon to establish the U.S. petrodollar, where the United States would buy oil from Saudi Arabia and provide them with military aid and equipment. And in return, Saudi Arabia would of course put billions of dollars into the petrodollar and back into U.S. treasuries, which of course was all personally scripted by Henry Kissinger himself, who not only meets with Donald Trump recently, but also advises him. And this is why, even though Donald Trump promised to hold Saudi Arabia responsible, called them out for what he even said was responsibility for 9/11, as soon as I saw Henry Kissinger sit there with Donald Trump, we officially called it on his channel and said, yeah, Donald Trump's really not going to make America great again. That's not the protocol here, especially with Henry Kissinger sitting right beside you, helping dictate the shots. And now, ever since that alliance was established, oil is mainly a geopolitical weapon, with Donald Trump continuing to pressure Saudi Arabia to produce more oil. And now Saudi Arabia is even announcing that they are producing record levels of oil right now. And this is basically just a quick quid pro, with Saudi Arabia and the United States making a deal together, with Donald Trump saying, hey, yeah, you guys could assassinate, commit all the human rights violations, commit one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world right now. You can do whatever you want. Just make oil low. Keep the price down. Keep overproducing it. And Saudi Arabia is like, okay. And this is done for many reasons. Not only for supposed convenience for the American person to pay lower amounts of fiat for oil, but it's also done strategically for bigger geopolitical reasons, because the lower price of oil, the more likely of a scenario it is to financially hit a lot of the geopolitical opponents of the United States and Saudi Arabia, and countries like Russia, Iran, and Venezuela that need oil to be a certain price for them to even gain a profit for their own oil exports are being hit very severely when, of course, the two largest oil producers in the world are producing a vast amount of it, which is lowering the price and lowering the potential of profits that these countries could potentially have, which they don't because of this move. And all of those countries, Venezuela, Iran, and Russia, are definitely not favorable countries towards the U.S. petrodollar and have been against it. And this is why Russia has been scrambling to, of course, influence OPEC to produce less oil so they could have financially a leg to stand on. And even the deals that they have worked out, they're just being usurped with what's happening right now between the United States and Saudi Arabia. And of course, Saudi Arabia has also an invested interest with Israel, of course, to go after their biggest competitor, which of course is Iran, and try to price them out of this market by overproducing their biggest competitor. And of course, the United States here was supposed to put on sanctions on Iran, not because they supposedly violated any treaty, but because of the pressure that Saudi Arabia and Israel want to put on them. And what was extremely surprising here, even to the Saudi Arabians, is that even though some of the sanctions were put on, 8 of the countries that bought oil from Iran were actually granted waivers by the United States and Donald Trump and allowed to produce and sell their oil on the market, which of course sent the prices down and blindsided Saudi Arabia, which of course creates a very delicate situation. But for years, a lot of this economic geopolitical oil finagling have of course turned a lot of the global countries against the United States and of course looking for alternatives to the US petrodollar. And it is the petrodollar that gives the US dollar its actual purchasing power, its influence, its authority, and the high rating that it has. Of course, the bigger question has to be asked here, what the malarkey is Donald Trump doing here? And of course, with flooding the market with oil, not only with Iran, with Saudi Arabia, and the United States, there's many geopolitical effects on this, but even domestically, a lot of the bigger companies are going to survive a lot of this overproduction of oil, while a lot of the smaller companies will, of course, go away. As even in the United States, oil companies have lost $1 trillion with, of course, the price of oil going down. Already 200 American energy companies have been wiped out, destroying hundreds of thousands of jobs. And with the inflation, deflation-like system, of course, a lot of the elites will benefit from this and have a bigger monopoly on the market that is available through them and is being artificially manipulated by Donald Trump, which naturally will have a lot of people speculating whether there's some kind of bigger deal made here between some of the top oil companies and Donald Trump, which wouldn't be surprising. But here in the United States, actually the decline in oil prices have actually been correlated with the decline of stocks, creating a net drag on the U.S. economy. And even though there's lower prices at the pump, it does seem to have a larger adverse reaction to the larger oil market and to our economy. Now, why Donald Trump is flooding the market with as much oil as he can, that really is unknown, because there's no direct evidence proving a direct correlation to why. But one thing that is extremely clear throughout looking at all of this is that this relationship with Saudi Arabia, it's not needed. Not only because it violates the basic essentials of morality and doing the right thing, but, Saudi Arabia, as it comes out, according to new reports, is torturing women who want to drive. That was sold by the U.S. mainstream media previously before, but is really just a big old lie. The country is not only creating the worst humanitarian crisis in the world right now, but they are actively engaged, working with, cooperating with Al-Qaeda to, of course, help spread their radical Wahhabist ideologies all throughout not only the Western world, not only in Syria, in Yemen, in Libya, and many other countries around the world, but with the direct support of the United States. Literally, if you look at it objectively, the world's biggest problems, whether it's the migration crisis, whether it's the war on terror, whether it's all the turmoil in the Middle East, could be explained by this asinine, crude, evil alliance between these two countries, and it's not worth it for cheap oil, especially now with the United States being the #1 oil producer in the world, and at the same time having a strategic petroleum reserve, an emergency stockpile of oil supply. 665.5 million barrels could be used any freaking time to offset, of course, any possible instability that may happen between the United States and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, by the way, is a failing empire. Their oil will not last. They have no natural resources, no access to fresh water, no access to food, farming, and it is only a matter of time until this empire completely collapses. So there's absolutely no freaking reason for Donald Trump and his derelict little son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to be as cozy with these autocrats as they are. Hell, there's even the whole discussion about free energy, which should be another video all in itself, that has been covered up, denied to the public, censored, stopped from being reached by the public, mainly, of course, because it would hurt the economic interest of very few individuals who have a monopoly on this stupid game where human rights are traded for cheap black liquid that destroy our environment. And hell, that is not a way to live, because strategically it's not just shooting ourselves in the foot, while of course doing inhumane, horrible things to other people all around the world, but at the same time it's leading us down a pathway that will fail and have the rest of us fall in along with the economy unless we address it right now. And that's why, according to me, in my own opinion, economically, strategically, and geopolitically, this is ridiculous and this needs to end. If you agree with me, share this video with your friends and family members. If you want to be a part of the discussion and think I'm wrong about anything, let me know, of course, in the comment section below. I always answer comments within the first hour that a video is out. So if you want to be a part of the discussion, click subscribe and the notification button. And yeah, wow. Whew. thank you so much for being with me all the way up until the very end of this video. And it's really you people that allow us to keep going, and sincerely, thank you. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/we are change.